we're now going to look at the pneumatic trainer. We're going to go through the pre-job inspections that you'll be demonstrating to your instructor. Similar to the hydraulic trainer, we're going to want you to demonstrate a safety checklist, identify the components that you're going to be using with the system. Also, we're going to want you to demonstrate how to connect and disconnect the tubing on the trainer, as well as how to adjust the needle control valves. So let's start with the components. Here we have an FRL, or filter regulator lubricator. We're going to connect our pneumatic air supply at this point right here. We have a shut-off valve that we'll make sure that our air is turned off when we do that. Then we'll turn our air on. We'll open this valve here, which will apply air pressure to this header. We will be able to demonstrate adjusting the regulator properly to your instructor. From this header, we'll then connect for our different labs to a number of different directional control valves. The big difference between a pneumatic system and a hydraulic system, remember on the hydraulic system we always had a return path for all of our oil. On a pneumatic system, we are using compressed air, and any one of our directional control valves, if we were to look at one, would send the air off to a actuator or operator. But when that air returns from that actuator to the directional control valve, we don't need to recapture it, and it just gets vented out of these vent fittings on the directional control valve. That's one significant difference. The other significant difference is there is a bit of a sluggish or different reaction for compressed air than hydraulics. This compressed air is going to be supplied to us from a compressor, which is going to be energizing a cylinder and storing energy. As we use it, that compressor will come on and off to replenish that cylinder. So let's have a look at the checklist that you will get with your instructions, and you'll have to demonstrate with your instructor. You want to make sure that you check your lubricator, that there is oil in your lubricator. You want to make sure that you don't have any loose tubing in the guards, and that your actuators, the guards, are in place. When you do have your system connected, you want to flow through your schematic and make sure that all the tubing is routed correctly. The connection of these tubings is quite simple. You can see that you just push them in to connect them, check them to make sure that they're tight. Don't overly yank on them. To remove them, you just push in and pull the connection out. As simple as that. The other components, besides the ones that are mounted on the board that you're going to be able to use for your exercises, are these needle valves. You'll see on your schematic, they're called loose control valves. So they'll be in the cabinet in the lockup, and you'll have to find 2 of these. And on your schematic, there will be a direction of flow arrow indicating the free flow direction you can see here marked on the valve. The way this valve works is there is an internal ball check valve inside of here, which allows the air to flow freely in this direction, but it flows back in the other direction. The ball check valve seats, and it diverts it back through the needle valve, and we can then set our needle valve to restrict the flow in one direction only. So you'll see on your instructions we've asked you to completely close this needle valve, and you can see the gauge increments on here, and we want you to open one of them 2 full turns from the closed position, your instructions say. Whereas the other one, first check to see that it is closed, and take a note of where that is. It's on the 5. We want you to open the other one 5. 3, 4, 5. And you may have noticed the needle valve retracting as I back that away. It's not going to necessarily matter which order you install these two in on your schematic, but it is important that you have them set differently, and then we're going to ask you to observe and conclude what is happening when you operate your exercises based on these two different settings. It's also important at the end of each exercise that you bleed off the pressure in the system before you disconnect any of your tubing. You can do that once again by reversing the direction of your regulator, and you'll see your system pressure gets bled off right at the regulator. You can hear it and feel it right at this hole right there being bled off. So once you've bled that pressure off, now you can start to disconnect the tubing. It's important that when you're bleeding the system pressure off, you have these valves open so that the whole system pressure can bleed off. It is different, a little bit different in hydraulics, and the compressed air does in fact compress, therefore the energy is stored in the system, and we need to allow that to be bled off before we disconnect any of our tubing.